Looking to start your own website? The first thing you need is a domain name, and the best place to get one is at GoDaddy.com. With your domain registration, you'll get hosting, a free blog, complete email, and much more. Plus, as a MuggleCast listener, enter code RON, that's R-O-N, when you check out, and get your .com domain name for just $7.49 a year. Get your piece of the internet at GoDaddy.com. This week's episode is also brought to you by Audible.com, the leading provider in spoken word entertainment. Get a free audiobook today by visiting audiblepodcast.com/MuggleCast.
This is Professor McGonagall welcoming you all to MuggleCast, hoping you enjoyed. Dobby, come here. Here, Dobby.
Yes, well, I'd just like to say how very pleased I am to introduce MuggleCast to all of you. Thank you.
Because Ben is starting a new trend in high schools, this is MuggleCast, episode 185, for November the 22nd, 2009.
Welcome to MuggleCast episode 185. We're here for another episode. It's all Potter all the time here on MuggleCast, and you guys know we're now just 1 year away from Deathly Hallows Part 1.
Ooh.
Oh, snap.
Is this sad news, or is this happy or bittersweet, or what's the feeling?
I think bittersweet is the word, Andrew.
I have to agree.
I'm kind of like, I would have been really depressed if it was Part 2 that we're a year away from, but, you know, luckily we're still about 18 months away from that, or a little more than that.
For right now, we're 1 year away. You never know with Warner Brothers. That could change.
Yeah.
Right.
They can delay it 3 years.
I don't know. I'm still sticking with the theory that they can move it up to summer, because I think, from a filming perspective, it'll be ready in time, but I don't know. So we're about a year away from the film's release, and it's pretty sad. Well, it's not sad. It's bittersweet, as Ben said. And we have a great episode for everyone today. We're going to go through chapter by chapter. We're going to bring an old segment back we haven't been on, or we haven't done in a while, and of course discuss the news. I'm Andrew Sims.
I'm Ben Shane.
I'm Mike Catano.
I'm Matt Britton.
And I'm Nick Myers.
Matt, it sounded like you forgot who you were for a second.
Yeah.
Well, because it's been a couple months since I've been on.
All right, Michael, what's in the news this week?
You know, Andrew, I'm actually kind of disappointed with something that was in the news. This first point here, direct download links for the Ultimate Edition previews of both Sorcerer's Stone and Chamber of Secrets. What's the deal with putting all this stuff online? Well, isn't the idea to go and buy the DVD, you bring it home, you watch it? Now all this stuff is available for people just to go online, they watch it, they don't need to buy the DVD.
Well, this is all promotional material. I mean, there's going to be an hour from each of these DVDs with the behind-the-scenes look. Like each of them, I think it's an hour for each of them, right?
And that's not on, that hasn't been released, has it?
No,
Not
but
yet.
what we're seeing are clips from, you know, what the hour-long special on each of these DVDs is going to be.
So they're trying to whet our appetites.
Yeah.
Make us go out and get the DVD when it does come out.
That's right. I think it's kind of cool. I mean, has anyone watched these clips?
Yeah, I agree with Micah there. They've given too much away, I think.
Ah, you guys, you're just so you're
It's
spoiled.
a great novelty, but I mean, yeah,
Spoiled?
There's a lot though. I mean, if they release just a few of them, then I don't see any problem with it. But dang, it looks like there's like 18 videos.
Okay, well, yeah, there are a lot, but they're all like they're all a couple minutes. I don't know.
This would be the opposite of being spoiled. We don't want to be spoiled. That's the whole point. I mean, if you're going to go out there and spend money on these collection of DVDs for both the movies, I mean, it's good to have maybe one video that you put out there that showcases, the Ultimate Editions, but to have all of this stuff, I mean, I don't know. I don't agree with that. Bad move by Warner Brothers.
Well, I think they're just trying to really promote it, and, this is sort of what happens with the clips from all the movies. There's a ton of movie clips. Maybe they're confident there's tons of material. I don't know.
Micah, what if I can't afford the DVD?
Yeah.
You telling me I shouldn't at least be able to get a glimpse of it?
Yeah.
Come on, Micah.
Rebuttal, Micah?
Come on.
No,
Micah.
that's a really good point. Go torrent download it.
Well, these clips are cool. There's a lot of great insight we get into the making of the first two films, and I think the insight into these two films are going to be most interesting out of all the Ultimate Editions, because this is the start of everything. And one of the clips that we see has Chris Columbus and David Heyman talking about their relationship with one another, their working relationship, and they also focus a lot on getting the kids to act, because this was for Dan, Emma, and Rupert, this was their very first film.
This was back in the day, man.
A big film. Dan did one other film, or one or two other films before this.
I think he did two. Yeah.
And one interesting thing we learned is that they had multiple cameras rolling for almost every scene that they were in, because they wanted to make sure they got the best shot of each person in every take, because they never knew when they were going to miss an opportunity, because these kids just weren't experienced enough. And that's rare I'm going to turn into Mikey B for a second. That's rare for filming, because usually it's just one camera at a time. They film this more like a sitcom sort of style, where, it's multiple cameras going at once, or documentary style.
Well, also, the way that they were talking about it, it seemed like David Heyman and Chris Columbus, it seemed like it was a big job for them. Like it was almost like annoying to the fact that the kids just couldn't, do it in some takes.
Yeah, they said it was really hard. And plus they had school, they had to get scenes in before they had to go get tutored and all that, so.
It was interesting listening to David Heyman talk about how Chris Columbus really didn't have to listen to anything he said.
Yeah.
David Heyman was kind of the J.K. Rowling, what's the word? Like he was
of the series.
Yeah, I mean, he was so into the books, and he basically said Chris didn't have to pay any attention to what he was saying, but he really kind of listened to everything he had to say.
Right. So these are coming out December 8th, along with the Half-Blood Prince DVD. I am really excited for these, but I'm starting to think I'm going to ask for the Ultimate Editions for Christmas.
We should plug that section that we created for the Ultimate DVDs. What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely.
Where now all these links are available there, so you can go over there and watch to your heart's content if you can't afford the DVD.
Yeah, just go to MuggleNet.com, and on the left side under movies, there's a link for Ultimate Edition DVDs, and it's your one-stop. It's the ultimate resource for the Ultimate Edition DVDs.
Ultimate.
Super ultimate.
There was another cool video, just to bring it up real fast, where they were talking about Dan and how originally his parents didn't want him to take the role.
Yeah. And then,
well, they'd be kicking themselves over that one.
Yeah, really.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because their parents said they thought it was too big for him. He wouldn't. What was the wording, Micah? Like they didn't.
No, you got it right. They thought it would be too much for him to take on.
Yeah, and then by some weird coincidence, David Heyman was with, who was it? I'm forgetting the story. They were at this theater.
It was with Steve Kloves.
Steve Kloves, yeah, and they were sitting near Dan and his parents, and David Heyman kept turning back to look at Dan like, oh my God, he's perfect, he's perfect, he's perfect. And Dan, there's an interview with him on the Chamber of Secrets set and on the Deathly Hallows set, retelling that story where he's like seeing this guy looking at him, and he's like, why does he keep staring at me? So it's a pretty wild twist of fate, and really cool story.
I'd be creeped out if I was in public and
Yeah, seriously.
some weird dude just kept like turning around looking at me.
Right.
You're like 10 years old, and some old guy keeps staring back in front of you, just looking at you for like 10 really long seconds.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't mind a guy checking me out if it meant I was going to be in the top grossing franchise of all time.
Good point.
Yeah, there you go.
All right, Micah, what else is going on?
Well, speaking of Dan, he's set to star in an upcoming episodes of The Simpsons.
No, wait a second, Micah. Come on, dude. You made this up. Come on.
No, this is real.
I made it up?
Yeah, come on.
Oh, you mean the news is supposed to actually come from a source?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh.
Well, no. I mean, like, The Simpsons is a cartoon. Dan Radcliffe is a human. So
he's going to be voicing a character.
Oh.
So he's not actually going to star in it. Let's just get that.
He's
I
not
don't want people to get confused.
You're right. I appreciate you looking out for me like that. I don't want to be making those types of mistakes.
So go ahead. Tell us, the details.
So he'll be in playing a character in the upcoming episode of The Simpsons, but the episode won't be aired until next year around Halloween time. I think he's going to be on their Halloween show.
Yeah, and it's going to be a Twilight spoof, and he's going to be playing a character called Edmund, and that should be pretty funny. I'm surprised they're announcing this so far in advance, because the last Halloween special just came out.
That's true.
Yeah.
I wonder how far in advance they do these.
Well, I would think it doesn't take that long to do an episode of The Simpsons, though.
No.
I mean, they've been checking them out for like 20 years now.
Yeah.
True.
Well, that's why I'm wondering why they announced it so far in advance, but it almost seems like a joke because it was so far ahead. But I guess maybe they're going to time it around the release of the movie. But yeah, that's pretty cool. And a lot of people were happy to see that because I think Dan once said that one of his dreams was to be in The Simpsons. So, because I think he's a big fan of the show. So.
Sometimes dreams really do come true.
That's so right.
Well, the final piece of news, there was a Harry Potter spells app for the iPhone and the iPod Touch that was released this past week. And there's an instructional video that Warner Brothers, I guess. Was it Warner Brothers who sent it along?
Yeah.
I didn't know from the email. It's like random people sending you instructional videos. But the guy who created the app actually sat down and created a video for those people who have bought it so they can learn how to properly use.
Yeah, here's the thing. So this app came out this past Monday, and I gotta be honest with you, it was very hard to work. For something that should be simple, where you're just, making these simple gestures, I had a very difficult time learning it, and I posted a review on MuggleNet. And I'm not saying that this guy made the video just because I was complaining, but I think a lot of people complained about it. So they released this video, and it's so cheesy. Some guy was holding some guy was holding up a camera for the guy who made the app, and he does the spells, and the whole time he's looking straight at the camera, and it's just like creepy. And he tries to teach you how to do it, and he can do the spells right, but I've tried it. It's impossible. Nick, did you get the app? Don't you have an iPhone? Or
no, I read your review and decided not to get it in the end. But, a lot of the fans have made excuses for it, saying that it's hard to learn spells in the book, so it should be just as hard to perform them on the iPhone.
Oh, that's nonsense.
I completely agree, though. I mean, I'm already to Avada Kedavra, Andrew.
Are you really?
Well, no, but I'm close.
What were you saying, Ben?
I was going to say, how much did this app cost?
$4.99.
$8,000.
It's pretty expensive for an app.
Especially one that doesn't even work right.
Right. But it's a cool idea and concept, and the technology built into the iPhone makes perfect sense in terms of turning it into like a wand app. And I hope they improve it because it's just ridiculous how difficult it is to cast these spells. And I'm telling you, this guy made this video just because it's so hard to work. He makes it look easy, but trust me, it is not.
Well, he's just on a different level than you.
It's funny though. Clearly. Watching that video, it's weird because like you said, he makes it seem so easy. It's almost, you ask yourself the question, why would you even buy this app in the first place? But you're giving out all these complaints. It must be pretty bad. That's all the news. Yeah.
Cool.
Wow, Micah.
It's been a kind of slow news week, but of course, when the DVD's released, we'll have plenty to talk about then. That'll probably be our next episode. Before we move along, we'd like to remind everyone again that this week's episode is brought to you by Audible.com, the leading provider in spoken word entertainment. You can get a free audiobook today by visiting audiblepodcast.com/MuggleCast. These audiobooks can be put on your MP3 player and listened to anywhere, just like MuggleCast. If you're looking for a good book to try, I'd recommend The Magicians by Lev Grossman. It's a thrilling and original coming-of-age novel about a young man practicing magic in the real world. I've just started listening to it on Audible, and I love it. I highly recommend it. Again, visit audiblepodcast.com/MuggleCast to get a free audiobook. Okay, so let's get into Muggle Mail now, and then we'll move along to chapter by chapter. Ben, could you read the first email?
I would love to, Andrew. Great. Josh, 20, from Moon Park, California. Andrew, where's Moon Park, California?
I don't know, but I'll Google Map, and I'll let you know how far away.
Wait, Moore Park, right?
Moore Park. No. Sorry, not Moon Park. My bad. Moore Park, California. Thanks, Matt.
Oh, you're welcome, Ben.
Josh writes, Hi, MuggleCast hosts. I was just wondering what your thoughts were on the Death Day party's omission from the second movie. I know time didn't allow for this scene, but they must have been planning it in the early drafts of the script. On the Chamber of Secrets DVD, Disc 2, go to Behind Hogwarts and click on Gallery of Production Sketches. Click right twice and click on the bottom right portrait. Then you'll see an artist's rendering of the Death Day scene. So at what point in production do you think the scene was cut?
I wonder what happened with that. Do you think maybe it was a budget thing? Like, because obviously it would take a lot of money to come up with a scene where there's hundreds of ghosts. So I wonder if it was just for budget purposes.
Or maybe they just
it wasn't
so much
a deleted
to do
scene?
they couldn't be bothered.
No, it was. No, it wasn't a deleted scene. It seems like they were planning on including it and got to the production sketches, but then it disappeared.
The lost scene.
I mean, maybe it just slowed down the pace. Maybe they realized that I was just going to slow down the movie a bit.
Yeah.
So they just decided to cut it.
Yeah. I think there's probably a variety of reasons, but I had forgotten that there was a production.
So how did they change it in the movie? I'm forgetting now.
It wasn't included.
No, I'm saying because after that is when they find Mrs. Norris. So what did they do to change it around so that they took that scene out?
Was it after they went to eat?
Oh yeah, it was after that. I know Nearly Headless Nick grabbed him after he came out of the Great Hall or something and asked if he could come with him.
Yeah, maybe it's something.
It was something like that.
Anyway, Nick, could you read the next email?
Yeah, sure. Next email is from Kelly. She's 18 and from Massachusetts, is that? She writes, Hey MuggleCast, this is Kelly. I've just started listening to your show, starting with episode 173, and have never sent an email before now. I was listening to your latest show, 184, and at 5:03 to 5:06, Ben Shane made me die with laughter when he said Rubius Hagrid. And again at 5:28 to 5:29 in that crazy accent. Haha, for some reason I just find it hilarious, and now it's an inside joke at my school. My friends and I will just start laughing. All I have to say is that, Ben, you should talk in that accent more often because it really is funny. Keep up the great work, MuggleCast. Can't wait for the next show. Peace.
So look at that, Ben. You made a new fan.
You made a new catchphrase out of school, too.
What's that? What'd you say, Matt?
You made a new catchphrase, too, at that school.
You know, I'm a trendsetter.
I know.
That's what they tell me.
That's
Rubius.
For us? Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, can you give us a Rubius Hagrid?
Micah.
Say, Micah, what's in the news?
Micah, what's in the news? Rubius Hagrid. Rah.
It never gets old.
I know.
It's really good.
It's been going on for years, man.
We're going to have to come up with scenes for you because you know how you always say the same things, which is good, but we're going to need to, come up with some new material for you.
Change it up a bit.
Yeah, I've been saying this stuff for 4 years.
How about Great Man Dumbledore?
Dumbledore?
No. Say it as Hagrid.
Huh? Oh.
Dumbledore's a great man. Or something.
Dumbledore. That's all I can say. I'm done. I am not some machine you put quarters in that just replies, just goes on command. I have a soul. I am a human being.
All right. Matt, could you read the next email?
Yeah. Our next email comes from Danny F. 15 of Philadelphia, and Danny writes, Hey, MuggleCast, I'm a big fan of the show. I love it. Specifically, the reinstitution of chapter by chapter. What has always ticked me off is the movie book difference of McGonagall telling the chamber not bins. More so, you guys agreed with the movie change. I love the ideas of bins, an ancient ghost telling a strict, lifeless interpretation of the myth and watching such a consistently monotoned, stiff character become vulnerable when dealing with the paranoia and insanity that comes with the chamber. It would give such an interesting spin to the movie, add a little darkness. Andrew was right by saying that McGonagall's class was such an odd time for a question, and the way she answered was a forced, anticlimactic scene that could have been much better. It was a lazy move on the part of whoever incorporated that part. Thanks again. Love the show. P.S. Where's Laura?
See, that was my point exactly.
What? Where's Laura?
Where's
Laura?
No, not that part.
Oh.
Well, no. I mean, I don't like that. I don't like this email.
Why?
First of all, they said Andrew was right. Which
Yeah.
we all know can't be true.
I don't appreciate that. I just think it would have been cool coming from Binns. It could have been like an extra eerie scene where he's like, he's like Dumbledore. He's just like very old and very like. I don't know what the line is.
I wouldn't say I was ticked off by being McGonagall. I mean,
this could be a very passionate fan.
Ease. Yeah. That's true.
I appreciate the fact that introducing a new character in the scene would have taken more than just giving it to a regular and then pass off that line.
Yeah.
Right. I think it goes back. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, well, the adult actors, too, they don't really have that many lines to begin with, so maybe they just threw Maggie Smith a bone and just had her say it.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I think it goes back to the point, Andrew, you were making before about not having the Death Day party in for budget reasons. It could be the same thing with Binns. I mean, why waste money on putting him in there?
Right.
The whole point was to show that for the first time, I think, in the entire series and probably throughout all the books, Binns' class is actually interesting and students care what he has to say.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
If you go back to the book.
Well, I don't know. We won't dwell on it. The past is in the past, and what can we say? But also, Danny mentioned where's Laura. Has she not been on in a while? But I really can't remember. But she'll be back on soon. She's actually going to be studying abroad this next semester in the spring. So there's going to be a period where she's not on for like 6 months. So
6 months.
we'll make her come on these next couple of episodes. She couldn't this weekend because of traveling home for Thanksgiving.
Is this the third episode I've been on in a row?
Yeah, congratulations, Ben.
Congrats.
This is the 200th episode I've been on.
They call that a streak, my friend.
It's like a heat wave. 3 days above 90 is a heat wave. This is a Ben wave.
A Ben wave.
3 episodes with Ben. Okay, next email is from Jamie. Jamie Lawrence is now a listener of the show. He's decided to stop
He gave up. He gave it up.
It's easy to just listen. First off, of course I have to say I adore the show. You guys are amazing.
Oh,
well,
thanks,
thank you.
Jamie.
This question has been bothering me for a while, and I figured there's no one better to ask than the MuggleCasters. What happens to Muggleborns' friends once they go to Hogwarts? Before they know they're wizards or witches, a lot of them have to have Muggle friends when they're young. But once they get their letter, how do they manage to hide that stuff from friends and friends' families? They can't just ignore them forever. And how would they get removed from the school system unnoticed? Wouldn't people begin to ask questions? Just thought I'd bring this up. I love you all. Peace, love, and Potter. Jamie Lawrence. That's actually just Jamie. But
Jamie.
This kind of relates to our discussion the other day about how do Muggle parents get brought into the Wizarding world, and how can they keep it all secret,
Well, I think people of course would begin to ask questions. That's there's no doubt. But I think they would probably adopt a similar strategy to that of what the Dursleys did, but except not such a terrible school. Like the Dursleys told everybody Harry went to Smeltings, I believe. Is it Smeltings? No, Stonewall.
Smeltings is where Dudley went, I think.
Yeah, that's where Dudley went.
Yeah.
Where Harry went to, they said that. St. Brutus's.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, that's it.
Incurably, criminally insane, like some special school for insane kids,
right?
Pretty much. So I'm guessing, if you had a family member who was wondering, where's your kid going to school? I thought, well, why isn't he in public school anymore? You probably just say, oh, I got him into this private boarding school off wherever, and then you go away for the year and nobody really asks questions.
Right. I think that's an interesting theory, but maybe there's some sort of permission that can be given. I just think that's kind of a big gap in the whole. It's a whole what's the word? Dark area. I don't know, unsolved area of this series, like how that sort of thing is dealt with. I'd like to hear.
Sorry.
I'd like to hear Joe's take on it. Go ahead, Nick.
I was going to say I'm not certain, but I think we changed from primary to secondary school around that age. So it would likely be the case that they're all moving to different schools anyway, so you can easily slip under the radar, and your friends wouldn't all go to the same place anyway. That makes sense.
Yeah. Okay, and the last email for today, Micah, could you please read that one?
Bring it home, Micah.
All right. Last email comes from Marielle, 13 of New York, and she says, "Hi, MuggleCast. I'm a huge fan. I just listened to episode 184, and you were discussing which book you thought was the hardest for Harry. I agree with book 7 being the hardest for Harry, but I'm surprised you didn't bring up Goblet of Fire. In that book, Harry is thrown into this competition that many have died in. His best friend turns on him like most of the school because they think he cheated. He's forced to deal with people turning against him because they prefer Cedric. By the end of the book, Cedric, who was becoming his friend, has been killed. Voldemort has risen again, and Harry viewed the whole thing and was part of it by force. And a teacher who he trusted turned out to be a traitor. So much has been thrown on him in this book, which leads to some angst in Order of the Phoenix. Love the show, and I adore you guys. Keep up the great work. My favorites are Andrew, Matt, Jamie, and Mikey. See, Mikey, I didn't forget you."
Well, I think she's absolutely right. We didn't discuss that at all. I mean, how ironic would it have been for Harry to have died in the Triwizard Tournament? You know, he was faced with very, very real danger. And, you know, it's just insane that he was put into that and actually came out of it alive. I mean, I can't believe Dumbledore even risked it. He must have really had faith in Harry.
No, the Goblet of Fire represents a magically binding contract. Andrew.
No, that you're absolutely right, but it just scares me to think what could have happened.
I know.
Joe wouldn't have let it happen.
That's true.
She said 7 books.
So that does it for Muggle Mail this week, and now let's get into chapter by chapter. This week we're discussing chapters 10 through 12 of Chamber of Secrets. We're actually about halfway through this book already. I love these short books. They go by so quick. And these 3 chapters focus on learning more about who opened the Chamber of Secrets, and these chapters focus on, you know, getting everything ready to create the Polyjuice Potion.
All right, so let's start with chapter 10, the Rogue Bludger, and at the very beginning of it, Harry gets pulled in front of the Defense Against the Dark Arts class, and Lockhart has him act like a werewolf.
Yeah.
And so the first thing that came to mind was, with Prisoner of Azkaban following, do you guys think that this was a little bit of foreshadowing on Joe's part that she threw in there?
I think it kind of was. It was kind of a goofy scene, too. I actually didn't think about that until you brought it up, but yeah, I think it was definitely a little foreshadowing there.
Now, with the whole Polyjuice Potion, Hermione figures that the best way to figure out how to brew it is to get a book out of the restricted section of the library. And so you see this whole scene between Harry, Ron, and Hermione trying to figure out, well, who would they possibly get permission from to be able to take this book out? And the obvious answer is, of course, Lockhart. And it's just funny reading this book over, seeing how dense his character is. I mean, as long as his ego is essentially stroked, he's going to do absolutely anything that anybody wants him to do.
Right.
Do you guys agree with that?
Well, that's all it takes.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, even Ron says Lockhart will sign anything if he stands still long enough.
Yeah, exactly.
He just wants, it's all about him.
Yeah.
It was an interesting way to, you know, continue advancing this plot by, you know, in including this character who would really do anything for them. I'm not saying it's sort of like luck or anything, but I think that was just a really good way for Joe to, you know, continue advancing the plot thanks to Lockhart's help through his arrogance.
Mm-hmm.
Well, when you guys were reading, did you ever think that he was this fraud before you get to the end of the book?
Well, I can't remember the first time. I mean, I was like 12, but I think it was clear that this guy was pretty messed up, and it came increasingly obvious, as we'll discuss a little bit later. It just became increasingly obvious that this guy was messed up. I mean, especially with turning Harry's bone into, or removing the bone from his arm. I mean, that was a big clue.
Yeah, and not only that, but I guess it kind of threw us off because typically Hermione is usually right about everything, and Ron is wrong, and you know, and Ron's going off about how much of a gid he is, and then Hermione is, of course she's infatuated with him, so she has a hard time seeing through him. But like I said, yeah, Hermione's usually right, and so this is the time when things were switched around a bit.
Do you think Ron kept calling out Lockhart's BS when just because Hermione was so infatuated with him? Maybe it was Ron a little jealous that like Hermione was giving Lockhart, was in love with Lockhart and not him.
Possibly. Yeah, quite probably.
Yeah.
I mean, he calls him a brainless git straight after Hermione sticks up for him, so it would make sense.
Right.
All right. Well, speaking of Hermione, I wanted to ask you guys, why is she so hell-bent on breaking the rules? I mean, this is a complete sort of diversion from her normal character. And this whole plan about brewing Polyjuice Potion just seems really outlandish. So I'm wondering, deep down inside, does she have this really strong hatred for Malfoy after she was called a mudblood? And is that what's really making her want to break the rules?
Well, the whole situation, I think, is more personal to her than it is for the other two in the trio because, I mean, they're attacking mudbloods, which she essentially is. And, I mean, in the book, she wasn't really... I mean, she didn't even know what a mudblood was at first. At least in the book, she didn't. And then Ron had to explain it to her. So, I think really the fact is that she's, like, taking it upon herself because, I mean, she does that throughout the series where she feels like she has to protect, like what she did with the house elves and everything. So, I think that's probably what's bringing it out of her is the fact that, it hits closer home to her than it would to the other trio. That's why she's kind of taking the lead on the situation.
Right. I mean, she even says, I think threatening Muggleborns is far worse than brewing up a difficult potion.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's just surprising and it's somewhat out of character because there's so much that could go wrong with this plan.
Yeah, I think she was definitely motivated by the whole mudblood thing. And I think she just really wants to get to the bottom of it, and I don't think she sees any other way to solve this without breaking the rules. Do you think that's a fair assessment?
Well, not only that, but you look at a character like Hermione who's been locked inside a cage of her own creation for a number of years, I would say. Well, I mean, not really a cage, but she's just very by the book. So maybe, deep down she definitely has a side of her that wants to rebel, and, the rules are really just kind of guidelines. If you need to step outside of them to do what is right, then it's okay.
Yeah.
I guess.
And she even brings up a point soon after this about, well, actually, I think it's later in one of these chapters. She mentions that she'll risk sneaking into Snape's office too, since they already have since she has a clean record, whereas Harry and Ron don't, which I thought was pretty funny.
Yeah. All right, well, moving on, the Quidditch match with Slytherin arrives, big anticipated sporting event, and we talked last week, or was it 2 weeks ago, about brooms, and we had a pretty long discussion about sort of, is it fair that one team has better brooms than the other? And I thought, going back to that, Oliver Wood made a good point when he says that despite having better brooms, Slytherin, Gryffindor has better people. And I know that was an argument that somebody brought up on the last show. I can't remember who it was. It's not about the broom, it's about who's riding it.
But is that true? I mean, Draco's not a good player, but they brought him on because of the brooms.
Don't you think it made the win more meaningful, though, the fact that they had these lesser brooms and that...
Oh, definitely.
That it was talent over the equipment, and it really stuck it to Malfoy.
I guess you're right in that regard.
But if you have two people of equal skill, and one's riding a firebolt and the other's riding a clean sweep, then the person on the firebolt's going to win every time. No doubt about it.
Yeah.
Because if they have equal skill, then the broom's going to make all the difference.
Yeah. But Oliver is still right in that it is about the people, because I think it may be very hard for two Seekers to possibly be matched in their skills, because it's such a very precise kind of role in the game of Quidditch that I think, each person would have their own special ability, whether it's being able to see it, from a very far distance away, or possibly hearing it, you know.
Well, it's also based on your judgment of the snitch too. I mean, you have to try to actually kind of think like the snitch too if you want to go really deep into it.
Right.
Yeah, and Malfoy just proves the point wholeheartedly by the fact that the snitch was hovering above his ear for so long during the match, and he had absolutely no clue.
Yeah, I mean, he's an idiot. He may not even know what it sounds like. Like, I can't imagine why he didn't even hear it. He was just so focused on Harry.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So the match continues, and Harry ends up getting the snitch. Gryffindor wins. And, of course, he hurts himself, and who comes to the rescue but Professor Lockhart? And, you know, I made the point that he continues to show the fact that he's this inept fraud, and he completely removes the bones from Harry's arm.
Right.
So, I mean, to me, maybe it was a lot easier to see in the movie because of, you know, all the effects that they can put into it, but, you know, when I'm reading the book now, I can kind of see how all the clues were there all along that Lockhart is this big fake.
Well, yeah, and I think we're going to bring this up in a bit, but, you know, somebody, I guess we can discuss it now. Somebody sent this Twitter question in. It was from Hermione, and she or he wonders, why are the other professors not stopping Lockhart when he is trying to mend Harry's arm, knowing that he's going to do something disastrous? I mean, that's what I'm wondering, because, you know, and Harry tried to rebel. He was like, no, please don't fix it. I'll go into the castle and get it mended by the nurse. But I'm just wondering, like, why didn't anyone else stop him? Like, everybody knew that was a disaster waiting to happen.
It's a good question. I mean, where were the other professors?
I don't know. Maybe Lockhart just ran ahead of everyone because he wanted to save the day again. But even then, like, it's just ruining his reputation. I don't even get why he tries.
I wonder, that's a good question, though, because what does somebody like Dumbledore think every time one of these events happens and he sees Lockhart just completely...
Yeah, why does he let him go?
Up?
Yeah.
Well, you got to also keep in mind Dumbledore hired... You have to also keep in mind that Dumbledore hired Gilderoy Lockhart knowing that there was a curse on the position. So obviously, I mean, he probably didn't care too much about him.
It's true.
Yeah, but still, he should care about Harry. So I don't know. Maybe it wasn't there.
All right. So Harry does end up going to the hospital, and we learned after a while that Dobby showing up that Dobby was the one responsible for blocking the barrier at King's Cross Station. And he mentions that he had to burn his hands afterwards. And I know we had a discussion a couple episodes back about whether he was doing all this on Lucius's orders or if he was doing it of, you know, kind of his own desire. And, you know, doesn't this kind of prove that he does indeed care about Harry? And because he says that he thought that by doing all this, Harry would be safe. But my question is, why would he have to burn his hands if he doesn't really have any allegiance to Harry in the first place?
Isn't that exactly why? Because he's burning his hands because he's still loyal to the Malfoys?
Okay. No, that's a good point.
Yeah.
But is he doing that because of the Malfoys, or is he doing it because he's preventing Harry from doing something that he wants to do?
I think he's
a little bit both.
I think he's just very conflicted. Like, he wants to help Harry, but he knows he can't, so the way he's punishing himself is by burning his hands.
Right.
But on the other hand, he's still trying to help Harry. So maybe his thinking is, oh, I'll help Harry, but I'll still punish myself. So that way I'm still loyal to the Malfoys because I'm punishing myself. But I'm still helping Harry. I don't know. It's very convoluted thinking, but...
Right. Well, and there's a great quote that Dobby says. He said, if he knew what he means to us, to the lowly, the enslaved, we dregs of the magical world.
Yeah.
It just really shows you what house elves think of themselves and how they really don't, you know, give them any sort of status.
Yeah.
But how Harry Potter means so much to them.
Yeah. And and Dobby mentions that the view, the perspective on house elves has changed over the years, thanks in part to Harry killing or Harry, you know, sort of defeating Voldemort.
And then we learn that house elves can be freed by being presented with clothing, and obviously this has a bigger implication at the end of the book, but interesting how it's thrown in there.
Yeah, hey, Micah, if you could have a house elf, would you?
I don't think I would.
Why
I
not?
don't see why you'd need one. Magic will make your life easier anyway. I don't see the specific need for one.
Well, us humans are still naturally lazy, so even with magic, we could be like, I don't feel like flicking my wand to do that, or I don't feel like picking up my wand to do that. I would take a house elf. I mean, they're there to work
Would you
for us.
treat it fairly?
No. Oh, sorry. You can answer it.
I would be nice to it. I mean, what do you mean treat it? What do you mean treat it fairly?
How can you treat like a slave fairly to begin with?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, still, I wouldn't hit it or make itself punish itself. I would treat it like Harry has. Harry treated Creature.
Yeah, but Harry said Creature. Well, he said Dobby free, and Creature will never leave.
Yeah, but Harry still treated Creature kindly, especially when Creature started respecting Harry. Mm-hmm. I think there'd be a way to do it, and I mean these house elves are programmed to, be these slaves for wizards, and hey, if they're gonna do that, I'm certainly not gonna stop them. I'll make them cook food for me. Sure, why not? Ben, would you have a house elf? I think you would.
No, I'm not cruel and inhumane like you, Andrew.
Yeah, I agree with Ben.
I'm not being cruel or inhumane.
I have more respect for life than that. Thanks.
I'm being resourceful.
Andrew just needs staff around the house.
Yeah, like those the white Southerners in the 1800s. They were just being resourceful.
This is a bit different.
All right. Should we move on?
Yes, please. I'm digging myself a hole.
All right. So the biggest piece of information we get out of this conversation is that the Chamber of Secrets was open before. And Harry wants to know from Dobby, well, why would I be in danger? I'm not Muggle-born. And I think, we, having read the whole series, we talked about Dobby knowing about the Horcrux in the first few chapters. But I think it's becoming clear he does in fact know that Harry is in danger from this diary. And there's that scene when Harry talks about not wanting to leave because Hermione would be in danger, and Dobby all about has an orgasm when he hears that Harry is willing to risk himself for his friends.
Right.
So towards the end of this conversation, Colin Creevey gets brought in petrified into the nurse's wing, and we hear this whole conversation between Dumbledore and McGonagall and Madame Pomfrey, and Dumbledore asked the question, or was it McGonagall who asked the question, who has opened the Chamber of Secrets? And Dumbledore says it's not who, but how. But aren't both relevant? Or you guys don't think so?
Well, I think maybe Dumbledore has a hunch at this point. I mean, he's a smart guy. He was there for the last time it opened, so I think he was on to something.
Well, he knew that Voldemort, that Tom Riddle was the heir of Slytherin, right?
I think so.
So he would know that only the heir could open this. So he would definitely have an idea.
Do you think Dumbledore was scared at all at this point? Because obviously
Dumbledore's scared? Come on, Micah.
Yeah, no, I think he was scared. Why wouldn't he be? I mean, there's someone petrifying students at school. Even though Dumbledore may have a plan in the back of his head, or may know.
Come on, fear isn't Dumbledore's game.
Well, then what do you think he was feeling?
What was he feeling?
Yeah,
he was just poised. He's like the Zen master, man. He's calm.
Mr. Miyagi.
He just takes life as it comes. It doesn't matter to Dumbledore.
Well, as headmaster, I would hope he's thinking ahead a little bit.
Of course he's thinking ahead, but he's not
focused.
Afraid.
Yeah.
He's prepared to walk head on into the belly of the beast.
He definitely does yoga in the mornings, doesn't he? He's one of those people I could picture doing some yoga to keep calm, especially during this book. Or any of the books for that matter.
All right. Chapter 11, The Dueling Club. And at the beginning, Harry gets released from the hospital. He goes and finds Ron and Hermione in Moaning Myrtle's bathroom, and they're in the middle working on the Polyjuice Potion. He lets them know about Dobby. So that's a little bit of background info there. But again, we get another glimpse of Ginny a little bit later in this chapter being distraught once she finds out what happened to Colin Creevey. And so it's interesting to see all these little hints that are being dropped throughout the book, knowing obviously that Ginny's responsible for opening the chamber.
Yeah.
Poor girl.
What do you guys think? Poor girl?
I don't think there's really anything to add. I mean, Micah, do you remember having some sort of feeling like, that something was up with Ginny about this? This is now, the third or fourth time she was really distraught over this?
Yeah, I think she's just... I probably thought that she was just scared. I mean, she's a first year at the time. So why wouldn't she be afraid with everything that's going on?
I mean, I guess I have a little sympathy for Ginny, but, I mean, come on. Like, this is a big deal. Like,
what?
Well, she's messing up, man.
by not saying anything?
Well, not only that, but she just...
She's 11, Ben.
Oh, give me a break. When I was 11, I was...
Conquering the world.
Conquering the world.
Fair enough.
All right.
All
right. Well, I found it funny in this chapter that there was kind of an underground trade that was going on for talismans, amulets, and other protective devices. So it seems like there's this whole kind of black market for these items that are supposed to protect students from the basilisk, even though they don't know that's what it is at this time.
Yeah, people are cashing in. And how are they marketing these things? Like, it'll prevent whatever from attacking you, because nobody knows what it is. So, like, how could you possibly, like, how do they know a large, evil-smelling green onion is going to, keep away whatever this mystery thing is?
Well, they thought it was a vampire, maybe.
Yeah, I guess so. Maybe that's a little hint.
But, and you mentioned Neville buying that, and Neville is kind of really down on himself despite the fact that he's a pureblood. He kind of refers to himself as a squib, and it just is kind of an insight into Neville's character and the fact that he has no confidence in himself to kind of protect himself.
Yeah. But I think a lot of students, I mean, especially these in their early years, were especially afraid of what was going on, so they were going for this stuff. This seems like stuff Fred and George would have sold.
Yeah, exactly.
But I wonder why they didn't. I mean, why was this even allowed? I mean, where are the teachers to stop this and be like, hey, you can't be selling this? I mean, couldn't the same person who's behind the opening of the Chamber of Secrets be also selling stuff to students? I mean, they're trying to cash in on their evil doing.
So, Andrew, you mentioned this before. Now they're going about trying to get all the pieces that they need for the Polyjuice Potion, and Hermione goes to steal the things that are in Snape's storage when Harry creates this diversion. So the question is, what's going on with Hermione? She's kind of like this renegade all of a sudden.
Hermione is just... she just wants to see some results. And again, I don't think that she's trying to,
she's showing off.
She thinks it's the only way to do it, I think.
Yeah.
She's not showing off, I was kidding.
Mm-hmm. I think Nick's right. It's the only way to solve this, and she's self-motivated by these insults that Draco was throwing at her. And, it was just a bad situation.
So, one of the title of the chapter is the Dueling Club, and Hermione, Ron, and Harry decide that'll be a good idea to go and check this thing out. And it's, of course, hosted by Gilderoy Lockhart. Who else would be responsible for something like this? And somehow Snape also gets in on the action. And, they demonstrate first, and Snape essentially kicks the crap out of Lockhart. And Snape then goes around and pairs different people together, and he decides, of course, to put Potter and Malfoy together. And Draco decides that he's going to hit Harry with anything but proper spells. And I thought it was interesting how Harry hits Draco with Rictum Sempra in this book, and then he hits him with Sectum Sempra in Half-Blood Prince. Now, these are two very similar spells in their name, but they have very different effects. So another tie, I guess you could say, between the two books.
Do you think Joe was going for some sort of connection there?
I think so.
Yeah, possibly. I mean, the whole... I think that may show Harry's growth over the years, between books 2 and 6. Sectum Sempra was obviously a very dangerous spell in Half-Blood Prince, whereas in Chamber of Secrets, the Rictum Sempra didn't really do much.
Right. And what's the deal with Snape before, the next point here, Andrew, that you wanted to talk about? But, pairing up Harry and Draco, it's like he's trying to start a problem.
Of course he is.
What do you mean, of course he is?
Oh, of course he's trying to create a problem. The reason why he was trying to start a conflict between them is because he knew it was Harry that set off the fireworks in his classroom. And he also gave him, on in the chapter, he told Draco what spell to use to get him.
Yeah, that's right. He did whisper.
He wanted to get back at Harry, so he used Draco as his outlet for that.
Yeah. I also think it may be Harry and Draco are a very good matchup to duel together. Almost for educational purposes, but I just wonder with this whole Dueling Club thing, like what was the point of this? Like Dumbledore's army made sense in Order of the Phoenix, but what was the point of the Dueling Club? And doesn't it sort of just encourage this unnecessary fighting?
People are scared, man.
But what was the purpose behind the Dueling Club, Ben?
What was the purpose?
Yeah, like why?
Because people need to be able to defend themselves, Say here you're in your apartment complex.
Yeah.
Say there's some night murderer, right?
Right.
You should go take classes. You start taking Taekwondo. You should be able to defend yourself in case. I mean, sure, you may have a gun or whatever, but in the event that, those skills could come in handy, you should have those skills because you never know when you might need to use them.
Yeah, I just think that the students are a little too young at this age to be having to learn to duel and, duel against one another. I don't know. I guess unless they were thinking, they want to teach the students to potentially duel against the basilisk. I mean, I guess that would make sense, but you're not going to win. So, onward, Micah.
No, it's a good point that you bring up. I mean, it's not like, I guess it's just because they know that the heir is a person, so they figure that it would be good to at least know how to disarm your opponent. I mean, it just would seem better to be defensive spells as opposed to, dueling.
Yeah.
But
all right, moving on.
Anyway, Matt mentioned before that Snape whispers to Draco what spell to cast, and he casts a spell that, creates a snake in front of Harry, and then the snake looks like it's attacking Justin Finch Fletchley. And all of a sudden, Harry starts talking to the snake, and everybody in the room thinks that he's antagonizing the snake on, as opposed to telling the snake to leave Justin alone. And of course, this sets off the whole discussion that Harry is the heir of Slytherin. I don't really know what else to say about that.
I think the students are really just being sort of immature here, because I still don't totally understand why it made it why in the movie I guess it made sense, the visual made sense, but I don't understand why the students had to assume and could not believe that Harry was actually sending the snake after Justin. I mean, it's a pretty bold statement, and then you also have to consider, like, would Harry really do that in front of students and teachers? Expose himself as the heir by doing this in front of this large group of people?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I guess it just shows that the immaturity of these kids.
Well, it was just a really bizarre incident because, everybody's scared. They're at this dueling club stuff, trying to learn how to defend themselves, and then this person starts speaking parcel tongue.
Right.
Which everybody's like, whoa, what is he just showing off? Remember, who said that? Ernie Macmillan?
Yeah.
I think he said, what are you doing, just showing off?
Yeah.
Like, come on, kind of thing. But yeah, because, I mean, it's definitely a bizarre situation, is the point I was getting at.
Well, part of it, too, is that Justin had told Harry that he was Muggle-born, right?
Yes.
Or was he Half-Blood or Muggle-born? I can't remember. I think it was Muggle-born.
Yeah.
And so, and the next part is a scene that, I think it was a deleted scene from the movie, wasn't it? Where Hermione tells Harry to go talk to Justin because Harry gets really worked up over the whole situation for the next couple of days. And, he ends up overhearing the Hufflepuffs who think that he is, in fact, the heir of Slytherin. That was a deleted scene from the movie, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. And this is also the classic, like the biggest movie error of all time. I brought this up on the show before, where when Draco falls back after Harry casts one of the spells, there's a camera guy with a camera straight up down on the ground on the left side of the screen. And from a nerd perspective, it just made my life, because it's such a huge blooper. It's a cameraman and a camera and a tripod all sitting there on the left side of the screen filming. And it's just wild.
And it made it into the film.
Yeah. We could go watch it right now. I think this is a good question for the producers. I wonder if they're gonna like make any changes to the films, like any digital changes or fix any bloopers, you know? I'm gonna keep an eye out for that on the Ultimate Edition. Man, in Blu-ray, you're gonna be able to see the name of that camera, and you're gonna be able to like recognize the guy, camera guy.
Count the hairs on his head.
Yeah. Can't wait.
So Harry leaves the Hufflepuffs pissed off, and he ends up running into Rubeus Hagrid.
Who?
Me?
Right on cue. And one of the things to note about Hagrid is he's got this dead rooster in his hand. And this was another indication that the monster is a basilisk. We learn about this later on, but I wanted to know, was Fantastic Beasts out and published at this time? Because then people might have been able to go to it and realize what the monster was.
I looked this up, and Fantastic Beasts came out in 2001, and the Chamber of Secrets was 1998 in the UK and 99 in the US. So not unless they were late readers, but would you have read that and then immediately gone to?
Yeah, I don't think Joe would have done that. I don't know. I think you would read the actual series first before going to read the extra books like Fantastic Beasts and Quidditch and Beetle the Bard.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, so after his run-in with Hagrid, guess what happens?
What?
As luck should have it, minutes later, Harry trips over a petrified Justin, who, is just lying there stone-faced on the floor, and nearly headless Nick is nearby. He seems to be petrified, too. Peeves shows up and makes so much noise that all the classes empty into the main corridor there. This is just too coincidental for me, man. Andrew, you brought up a good point, though.
Yeah, I mean, what's going on here? Why does Harry have to? Why is Harry always the one who runs into, runs into the basilisk attacks? I just don't understand why. Couldn't somebody else have discovered, at least one of these? At least Justin and nearly headless Nick. Like, I can understand the trio running into one or two of these, but and what are the chances of Harry running into all of these too, and being the first person to do so? It would have been cool to see, maybe some other student run into, one of the initial, or be the first one to notice an attack and be like, oh my god, what's happening? And then run off to Dumbledore, and then Harry hears about it later. But poor Harry.
Yeah, he's got bad luck, man.
That's really all it comes down to. He's just nothing but bad luck.
I know.
Yeah.
Poor kid.
So, of course, now he's in big trouble, or so he thinks, and he gets taken off to Dumbledore's office, and in the next chapter we get to see Dumbledore's office for the first time.
Yeah, that was really cool seeing it for the first time.
Kind of rereading it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Forget about that.
And then you're stuck with the visual from the movie, and it was interesting because there are a couple things that changed. One thing in particular I noticed was they noted about Dumbledore coming out of his bedroom, or I think Joe wrote this is where Dumbledore slept, because it was Dumbledore's home, which had me wondering, right, where is Dumbledore's bedroom in relation to, the movie set? Because you never see any additional room. It's just, the front area with a desk, and then there's the back area that has...
Dumbledore doesn't sleep.
I guess so. He's like a vampire.
It's like Chuck Norris. So, all right, moving on to the next chapter, the Polyjuice Potion. And at the very beginning of this chapter, once he's inside Dumbledore's office, Harry goes to the Sorting Hat, and he wants to know whether or not he was placed in the right house. and the hat tells him you would have done well in Slytherin. Not that he should have been placed there, but he mentions that he would have done well there, which, I mean, don't you think Harry would have done well no matter what house he was in?
Except Hufflepuff.
Well, I'm just wondering why Harry got angry and then ripped the Sorting Hat off, and I'm wondering why didn't he, he had this one-on-one time with the Sorting Hat. Why didn't he just, try to get more answers out of it? Like, you could have had a he should have asked the Sorting Hat why did he consider Slytherin? Was it because of the partial tongue abilities or what?
Right.
Just doesn't make sense.
It's true. All right. Well, next we meet Fawkes for the first time, and we learn a little bit.
What was that?
It's Fawkes.
No idea.
Gaga, Fawkes, Gaga.
Gaga, Fox.
You're in Dumbledore's office. Just dance. You're in Dumbledore's office. Onward, Micah.
Yeah, please.
Ignore mine.
We learned that phoenixes can carry they can carry immensely heavy loads. Their tears have healing powers, and they make highly faithful pets.
Oh, that's nice.
And obviously, this all has a larger implication at the end of the book.
And the series. When I was thinking about this, I was thinking about all the times that Fawkes later came into play.
Right.
Such a good bird.
And then Dumbledore shows up, and Ben, would you mind doing an imitation of "You saw him on a burning day"? Or what does he say? Something like that.
You saw him on a burning day. Ah. Ooh la la. Gaga.
Gaga, caught in a bad romance. They harmonize together, Dumbledore and Fawkes the bird.
All right. Now, what I want to know, obviously,
romance. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, go on.
All right. All right. So Harry and Dumbledore get into this conversation, and Dumbledore asks Harry if there's anything he wishes to tell him. And then when Harry says no, Dumbledore just kind of accepts that. I mean, come on. Obviously, there's a reason why Harry's in his office, and clearly there's something going wrong with him. Why is Dumbledore so willing to accept this BS response?
This is basically Dumbledore putting the ball in Harry's court kind of thing. Dumbledore's not really the confrontational type, I would say. He kind of he's the type to give you a knowing look or ask a question in a knowing manner, like he already knows the answer. So even though, of course, he knows that Harry's not being completely honest here, but this is him kind of urging Harry along the way to get him to open up, because, if he realizes that Dumbledore knows anyways, then what's the point in, withholding it?
Yeah, and I think Dumbledore's point of not pressing matters is he wants Harry to make decisions on his own. He doesn't want to force him to talk. He wants Harry to, grow on his own.
It's about choices, right, Ben?
It is our choices, Harry. Gaga. Ooh la la. Lady Dumbledore. Dumbledore Gaga. Gaga Dumbledore.
Gaga door.
Do you think Dumbledore listens to Lady Gaga?
Oh, yeah.
Definitely.
Lady Gaga is huge in the gay community.
Let's have some fun. This beat is sick. I want to take a ride on your wand.
Well, on your wand. Let's have some fun. This beat
Let's
is
have
sick.
some fun.
I want to take a ride on your wand stick.
Yeah.
Dumbledore and Fawkes could do an amazing version of whatever that song's called. All right, enough of this. So let's move on.
So eventually Christmas comes to Hogwarts, and the potion is ready, and Hermione comes up with this plan to drug Crabbe and Goyle, and
now she's just going too far.
I know.
I mean, now she's gonna drug people. Like first, first she's minor infractions, minor rule breaking, and now she's drugging people.
But this is necessary for the Polyjuice Potion. I mean, it wasn't necessarily her decision.
Oh, right, and that's exactly what Grindelwald and Voldemort were saying. For the greater good.
Right.
It's always the justification for the greater good.
Well, karma kicks her in the butt when she turns into a cat anyway, but we'll get to that in a minute.
Yeah.
Ooh.
So the potion is completed, they all transform, and Hermione, as you mentioned, doesn't come with them because she ends up turning into a cat. But I want to know how they did all this research about transforming, but none of them bothered to figure out where the Slytherin common room was.
That was so stupid.
Oversight.
Yeah.
Talk about oversight.
It annoyed. That wasn't even. I don't know. I don't know if Joe should have written it that way because I feel like that's a really an insult to Hermione's character to not think about that beforehand because that's such a basic thing. It's not like one thing that you could accidentally forget. I mean, the plan was to go to Draco, and Draco would be in the Slytherin common room. So it's just common sense. And I don't believe Hermione's character would have actually forgotten that. Or Ron, or Harry.
Well, did they kind of run out there without even bothering to consult Hermione? I mean, would Hermione even known where the common room was?
Yeah, I don't know. I bet she would have. Maybe you're right. I forgot that Hermione didn't go along. But they were placed under that time limit too, that hour time limit. So I guess they had a rushing feeling. And I mean, it could have easily taken them a full hour to find the common room alone. Yeah.
Okay, my question is, why wouldn't you just make enough Polyjuice Potion for like 2 hours and just have like a little flask on you and then, about 45, 50 minutes in, just take another shot of Polyjuice and...
I'm not sure. Maybe because it takes so long to make, just that little batch.
Yeah, I mean, you'd like to think that they could mass produce it.
Right. But, some things cannot just be mass produced.
The other oversight was them not really trying to keep their emotions in check throughout, and you see that in the movie, like throughout the whole conversation with Draco. They talk about Arthur Weasley, they talk about Colin Creevey and Hermione, and Draco's just ragging on all three of them. And
he's always ragging.
That's true, man. He is.
And that sort of turns into a funny bit, especially for the movies, because it's funny to watch Ron sort of freak out when Draco insults Ginny. But yeah, I mean, it must have been hard to hear Draco say that. I don't know if kids at that young age, or I don't know if Harry and Ron specifically could keep their emotions in check when they already have so much pent-up anger towards Draco, and to hear Draco saying this stuff firsthand, to be, expressing his feelings right in front of them, it must be very, very hurtful. And, Harry and Ron are no professional spies. They certainly can't, cover their emotions.
Right. Well, that's why maybe having Hermione there would have been a good thing.
Right.
Kind of keep them in check. But one of the cool things out of that conversation was we got a first mention of snapping a wand when Draco was talking about Arthur Weasley.
Yeah.
And how he loves Muggles, and how the fact that he loves Muggles, he should just have his wand snapped and he should be kicked out of the wizarding community. And isn't that brought up again with Hagrid later on?
Yeah,
Something
I think
like
it
that.
is. Yeah.
But it was kind of like just thrown in there, and you, I guess, normally just read over it without even paying attention. But
it's the little things.
I know. Joe.
Joe.
I
But
like him to be Joe. Baby, make your booty Joe. That Joe. Joe. Let me see that Joe.
Now, Lady Gaga. Just Joe. Gonna Joe.
Just Joe.
Now, Brittany. 1, 2, Joe, and
How about, oh, Joe, I do not want to read Twilight. I love you, Joe, oh.
We're going to make that a segment once. We're going to call out artists and just insert Harry Potter names into the songs. All right, Micah, we're almost done.
So from this conversation, we learned that the chamber was opened 50 years ago and that a mudblood died. We also get our first mention of Azkaban in the series.
That's right. Which plays a big role in the next book,
And then one last little thing, referring to the raid that happened to his father's manor, he says that, but luckily we've got our own secret chamber under the drawing room floor. And we know what role that plays later on in the series. So, thought I'd mention that.
That's right. It's a very crucial role in the series. Okay, that does it for the chapter analysis. Thank you, Mike. Spot on job there. You did there. I hope you didn't mind the random bouts of singing.
No, it adds to the conversation.
Does it though? Does it?
Yeah, it does. It kicks it up a notch.
Okay, it's time for quote quiz. Here's the quotes. The moment No.
Damn.
The moment they start trying to move into each other's pots, we'll know they're fully mature.
Oh, come on, Professor Sprout.
That's right.
Talking about the mandrakes. Come on.
That's right.
Get a different one, Andrew. That one's too easy.
Too easy?
Yeah.
Okay, this is a double quote quiz. Yeah, there's two people. What does she understand? That's the first person. Then the second person says, loads more than I do. Harry and Ron.
Wow, that was a good one, dude.
It wasn't. Had you stumped. We have just one tweet related to chapters 10 through 12 that we did not get to on our discussion. It's from Gabrielle, and she says, in chapter 12, Snape is the first one to teach Harry the Expelliarmus spell, his signature move that later saves his life. And that's kind of ironic, isn't it?
Ooh, because, well, I mean, technically speaking, Snape had that whole life debt situation.
Right, he was to protect Harry.
Right, and he gave him the spell, the cornerstone.
His signature spell. We should get a count of how many times he uses that in Deathly Hallows. I would bet it's many, many times.
Yeah, at least more than once.
Okay, so that's it for chapter by chapter. We're going to do a segment we haven't done in a while. Avada Kedavra, Imperio Love Potion. And let me remind listeners how this works again. I just listed 3 spells. I'm going to give each one of the hosts 3 characters, and they have to decide which one they would kill with Avada Kedavra, which one they would Imperio, and which one they would give a love potion.
Ooh.
Ben, you first. Avada Kedavra, Imperio Love Potion, Katie Bell, Cho Chang, and Ginny Weasley.
Ooh, this one's a good one.
Lots of attractive women.
I would kill Katie Bell. I'm sorry.
Oh,
I just don't have very much of an attachment to her, and I'd probably put Cho under the Imperious curse, because then I could get her to do whatever I want. And Ginny, she's a sweetheart, even though she's dumb and gets taken advantage of by stupid little books. And I give her the love potion because I'd want to be with her for a good
month.
A good month, absolutely.
Or whatever.
Wonderful analysis. Nick, same 3, spells and curses and potions. Rita Skeeter, Minerva McGonagall, and Peter Pettigrew.
I would AK Pettigrew, the little weasel. I think Rita needs some loving, so I'll give her the love potion.
Oh, come on, McGonagall's hot.
Yeah, but under the Imperio, she could be,
She'd be even hotter.
Why? Okay, we gotta stop with this Imperioing women. It's gonna come off very womanizing.
Hey, never.
Okay.
Well, it's the Imperious curse. Like, you can have people do whatever you want when they're underneath it. Like, it isn't like you're doing it to have like pure intentions. You know?
No, you're right. Okay, and Matt, Bellatrix, Narcissa, and Sirius.
Oh, okay. I think, you know what? I'm gonna Avada Narcissa, because I don't know. I just don't like women with pointy noses. Up in the air, just the white hair. I am definitely going to Imperial Bellatrix. Because that woman's crazy. Can you imagine what she is under the Imperious curse?
Wow.
Ben.
And you would give a love potion to Sirius?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Sirius Black.
And Micah, I totally did not mean to give you this one on purpose because I know we're sort of done with the whole goat thing, but Aberforth Dumbledore, Madame Rosmerta, and Tom the bartender of the Leaky Cauldron.
Well, I would actually have to kill Aberforth so I could take the goat.
Micah's life mission is to save goats from disturbing.
I mean, he's kind of the meaningless brother. You know what I mean?
Whoa.
Well, he plays a role in Book 7.
Oh, he helps people in and out of this Hogwarts and all that jazz.
It's true.
He has
But anyway.
Okay, so what are you doing with him?
He's dead. He's gone.
Okay.
Sorry. Bye-bye.
Is this after Book 7 or before? Because if it's before, there could be serious problems.
No, it's after.
Oh, okay.
Book 7 came out like 2 years ago, dude.
You know what I'm saying.
We're recording 2 years later.
Before the plot. Okay,
yes.
Go on.
After the plot. Anyway, give the love potion to Madame Rosmerta. And I'd Imperio Tom because you could get him to make you any kind of drink you could possibly want any time of the day.
Well, so could Madame Rosmerta. She has the 3 broomsticks.
Yeah, but she's marryable.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
Oh.
Yeah.
She's hot. I mean, Ron has a thing for her at one point.
That's right. Okay, so
I'm gonna slip me a butterbeer. Give
What's her
me
first name?
a butterbeer.
okay, well, that's how we play Avada Kedavra Imperio Love Potion. If you have any combinations to send in, character combinations,
Or spells even. If there's certain spells you want us to put on people.
yeah, we'll start mixing it up more.
Yeah.
Send it in to email us. Go to MuggleCast.com and click on Contact and fill out the box. Okay, so before we let everyone go, we have a few announcements today. Don't forget to vote for us on Podcast Alley.
How could they forget at this point?
Because we love to
3 years.
remind them.
It's been a long time.
I know, and every episode we talk about it.
I would love just to hear it every end of every episode. Just have all those clips. Vote for us on Podcast Alley.
There's a lot of them.
Podcast Alley. Podcast Alley.
And also, here's one we don't talk about as often. We are nominated at the 2009 Podcast Awards. Thanks to you guys, we are nominated in the Best Produced and Best Entertainment categories. Thank you so much for nominating us. And now it's time to vote. Voting is open until November 30th. You can vote every day. You're allowed to vote once a day by visiting podcastawards.com. And again, vote for us in the Best Produced and Entertainment categories. And while you're there, we have a couple other podcasts. We do a couple other podcasts that we'd love for you to vote for. In the cultural arts category is our Twilight podcast Imprint. In the mature category is our podcast Smart Mouths. And also our friends at Hogwarts Radio were also nominated in the general category. So that's a lot. But again, Best Produced, MuggleCast. Entertainment, MuggleCast. Cultural Arts, Imprint. General, Hogwarts Radio. Mature, Smart Mouse. So
there you have it.
You can vote in the other categories as well. You can vote once every day, so please vote for us once a day. We really
vote
appreciate
daily.
it.
Make it your homepage.
If we win in both categories, Ben and I will record a Dumbledore Fawkes Lady Gaga song.
Yeah, shake up the Harry Potter world.
We'll let you guys vote on which one, and we'll write one and get a karaoke version.
Get it all good and
yeah,
going.
It'll be amazing. It'll be our next
Christmas
Wizard Rock
#1.
Yes, it'll be our next Wizard Rock release. So again, podcastawards.com. Visit MuggleCast.com for all the details. We have the voting details up on there. Don't forget, as we plugged earlier, we have a new Ultimate DVD section on MuggleNet, which is the ultimate resource for the Ultimate DVD section. So check that out by going to MuggleNet.com, and under the films area on the left side of the page, click Ultimate DVDs. Don't forget, Infinitus 2010 is coming up. Infinitus2010.org is the site where you can find all the information about HPEF's next Harry Potter conference. It's going to be July 15th to 18th in Orlando, Florida. It's going to be happening right after the opening of the Wizarding World of Harry Potter theme park.
Andrew, are we doing a podcast there?
Actually, Ben, we cannot announce at that time at this time, but thank you for asking.
I've heard things.
You've heard things?
There has been rumors.
I haven't heard things. I don't know. But
probably that Rita Skeeter.
yes, stay away from that Rita. When you guys, if you register and attend Infinitus, when you're going through the whole registration process, please put MuggleNet or MuggleCast in the referral box. We do appreciate that very much. So thank you. Again, it's infinitus2010.org. And finally, on one last note, happy birthday to MuggleCast listener Megan. I'm friends with her friend Lucas, and we both wish her a happy birthday.
Oh, happy birthday, Megan.
Happy birthday, Megan.
Also, I have to give a shout out to Wales.
To Wales?
No, like the place in England. Like not actually, not like Free Willy. Not those kind of whales, but.
All right.
Although I do know some of those.
Female.
Commitment period. All right. Well, thanks everyone for listening. Don't forget, MuggleCast.com is the site where you can get all the information you need pertaining to the show. There you can visit our contact page and get in touch with us. We also have links to our Twitter
and our MySpace,
our Facebook.
If you're still using MySpace.
Everything. You know the deal. MuggleCast.com is the site for all the information you need pertaining to MuggleCast. Thanks, everyone, for listening. I'm Andrew Sims.
I'm Ben Shane.
I'm Micah Tannenbaum.
I am Matt Britton.
And I'm Nick Myers.
We'll see you next time for episode 186. Peace out.
Yeah.
Bye.
Rah, rah.
Bye.
Rah, rah.
Gaga.